You're welcome. We'll be starting the next tour out here at 11 o'clock.
All right. How do we sit down, though?
Oh,
We can't wait.
yep, so you can just go right through here.
All right.
All right, everybody. Good morning. I'm PS2 Fennell, and I've been in the Navy for almost 8 years, and February makes 8 for me. This is February makes also 1 year here on the Constitution for me. So if you guys have any questions or concerns, please let me know as I'm going through. I will give you as much as I can on the ship. Okay? It is a 30-minute tour, so just please stay with me wherever I go. You guys go ahead and take your pictures as we're walking up. We're going to go ahead and go up top, and we're going to meet up top right here. Go ahead, come on, gather in. So everybody has a chance to get on up. You guys can go ahead and make it over here too if you guys like. Alright, welcome aboard USS Constitution, the oldest commissioned warship afloat. By commissioned, it means that we are still actually active duty Navy. We are still in the Navy. We are not decommissioned. So all of us sailors on board here are actually active duty sailors. So that, and then warship afloat, by warship afloat, we just mean that we are actually afloat water. We do still go out. We at least go out 7 to 9 times a year. We try to do nice events. We go out, do 21 gun salutes, come back in, and here we are. So as you can see, there's 3 masts. We got our foremast, our main mast, and our mizzen mast. We are able to put sails on. We only put about 4 sails on now, but this ship can hold at least 48. Do you see these shrouds right here? These black ropes that go up looking like ladders, those are shrouds. Those are supports for the mast. We do climb up those tilts today. Those are we will climb up to that white part, which is called a fighting top, and then from there we go out on that little piece that comes out like this. That's called a yard. There's a string underneath it or a line underneath it. That's called our foot rope. That is the little foot rope that we go out on to actually unfurl or furl the sail, which means let down or bring it back up. We do not actually set sail. We don't have it fully rigged up, but we do put the sails down as is. So you guys can go ahead and take your pictures, walk around right here, but I'm going to tell you about these small guns right here. These little small guns over here or on this deck are called carronades. They are 2,200 pounds. They hold a 32-pound shot, and they only go 400 yards because the shot is very heavy, so it only goes that a certain distance, a small, short distance. This is the Spar deck. So take your pictures, and we're going to go ahead and head downstairs, okay? Yeah, I don't know. After this committal, so my decision to get out or stay in, I'm halfway there. Alright, everybody. It looks like pretty much everybody's down here. I will go over real quick that all the way back after. We do have the captain's cabin. He did sleep separate from the rest of the crew. But it is roped off, but you can still keep your head in there and take pictures if you would like. But I'm going to go ahead and start going over the gun stuff because it is the longest part of this tour. So, first and foremost, I did tell you about the small carronades up top. These ones down here are our long guns. They are our bigger guns. They are 6,500 pounds. They go 1,200 yards, but they hold a 24-pound shot. So the lighter the weight, the farther it will go. It takes 9 to 14 men to at least work one of these. Yep. So we're gonna go over the shot table real quick. This one right here is called a bar shot. It looks like a nunchuck, my favorite one. So the whole purpose of battle or war back then was actually to capture the other ship, the other vessel, because if you captured them, you get to gain the ship and whatever was on it. So it profited the Navy or the military more than actually destroying the ship. So this nunchuck or bar shot one, they would shoot it out and it would actually go shoot towards the lines. All those lines or rigging that you did see up top, they would have used those to tangle them up, so they would have made them incapable to furl or unfurl the sails or move around. Then, because that's an anti-ship one. Then there was this one called the Star Shot. This bar would not have been here. What it is, they load it in, they shoot it out, and when it shoots out, it spreads out. This one was aimed towards the sails. It would puncture small holes in the sails to make them incapable of actually catching air and being able to move around. Then you would have the least favorite one that they would probably use at last resort, which is called the double-headed shot. It's 2 heavy ends, and it would just go like this once it got shot out, and it would go straight towards the mast. This is where they would aim at the mast. Again, the mast are probably the hardest part to fix or very valuable to the ship, so they would probably use it last. So these are all anti-ship to include the original actual regular shots. This is our 32-pound and our 24-pound. So this is for the big ones, and these ones for the small ones. And then we have our 2 anti-personnel shots, which is a canister shot and a grape shot. These are both similar to shotguns. So this one they would load with a bunch of random stuff from the ship, like forks, whatever not forks, but random stuff that they could find. And they would shoot it out, and it would be like a shotgun and just spread out. It's anti-personnel, so it would go towards the personnel. And then this one, the grape shot, is made of a little 8-pound shot balls like these. And they would just group them together, and when they shot out, spray out like a shotgun. This right here is to actually measure the size of which shot you were sending up. And by measure, I'm saying those little golden plates on the floor right there, those are called powder ports. They're all throughout, you'll see them all throughout the deck right here. Our ammo storage was down below deck. We have an aft magazine, they're called magazines. We have an aft magazine and a forward magazine, so we had 2 of them. But to save time from running up and downstairs or clustering the area, they found a way to make them come up through those portholes there, through the little powder ports. So then we'll go to the loading process, which takes the longest time. It's a 15-step process, so I'm going to go over it kind of quick. So each team, like I said, the gun takes about 9 to 14 men, which would be a gun team. They would each have a gun captain, or every 3 guns would have a gun captain that was in charge of the teams. And then an officer would be in charge of them. So it's just down the chain it goes. It's similar like that in the Navy now. But to start off the process, the gun captain would tell them go ahead and cast loose all their lines. So they throw off a lot of these random lines that held the gun in to keep it from rolling around while they were out to sea. This one would stay on to help with the recoil because these do recoil, so they don't go all the way back there. This line will keep them closer than what they would. So they would cast loose the lines, they would run in their gun, which means they would bring it in, so they'd all pull it in, heave, heave, heave. Then there's this star on the front of it. It's a red star. When you go outside, you'll see them. They're called tampions. What that is, it keeps it from things going inside the gun when it is not being used. So they'll remove the tampion, and then they'll begin the loading process. This right here is what's called a wad, and all it is it's just line or something like dry and tight. It helps keep everything compact and dry. It soaks up any little bit of moisture that might have been in there. So they would put that in first, and then they would put what's called a wad, which is kind of like it's a cartridge full of gunpowder. They would load that in there, and then they would load another wad, and then they would load their shot, and then one more wad. So in between each one of those, every time they did that, they would call what's called ram home, or they would ram in everything. So there was this wedged line made out of this, and they would take it and they'd shove it all in there, nice and tight and compact to keep it all nice and sealed up. So they would do that every time, so in between each one of those steps. So once it was loaded, this gunpowder would be right here. There's this little hole right on top of them. And in this hole, they would take this right here, the matchstick, and this matchstick would have them. It's definitely broken, but they have this, it's called a prick. They would take it and they would stick it right in there, and they'd poke the gunpowder and then pull it out and test it to see if it was dry and actually usable. If the gun captain chose to say that this is not good gunpowder, they would then more than likely just say, forget the gun, move on to the next one and load the next one. It takes 10 times longer to remove and clean it out and reload that process than it would be to just go ahead and load it and use a different one. So then at the other end of this stick, or the matchstick, it has a line like this. It'll be soaked in kerosene or something feasible to go ahead and they'll touch a hot coal from the stove or from the caboose, and then they would use it to light it. But once he pricked it and tested it, they would put what's called an apron or a leather piece right over this hole to keep it from getting anything else inside. So then when that was good to go, he'd tell his team, go ahead, run out your gun. They'd go ahead, heave, and pull it out. And then they had to aim it, right? And in order to aim, the gun only goes up and down. It does not go left or right. So, but they would use these little pegs here, and they would have one or two people on each side, and they would take the gun and they would lift it up. And then somebody would take this wedge and pull it out, or pull it in, whatever they had to do to adjust the gun up and down. Then once it was good and aimed, they would wait until they got the call. The gun captain would say, everybody stand by, everybody would move, plug their ears, and the gun captain, whenever he got the word, would fire it with that kerosene matchstick. So he was distant, but he was able to light it. Now that long process I just went over, how long do you guys think it took?
30 minutes.
10 minutes.
10 minutes, what'd you say?
30 minutes.
30 minutes? Anybody else?
15.
It took the British at least 2 minutes to get it down. We, the Navy, were able to get it to 90 seconds. Yep. The Navy trained until they were perfect at it. So they got it all down to 90 seconds. So it took them 90 seconds to load and fire off each one of these guns. Just boom, 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 boom.
And you said it was 7 to 9 people per gun?
9 to 14.
9 to 14.
Yep, 7 to 9 is upstairs actually. So you guessed that one for that one.
How much unloaded?
To unload, that process, I don't know that one. It probably takes way too long because they have to take it and they actually have to pull it all the way in to be able to go ahead and try to get it, whatever's in it out, because there's no other way to get it from behind here. So they have to pull it from the front. But that's the gun process and all the gun shots. So we're gonna go ahead and make my way down here. Oh, somebody asked about the names. You did? So the names of both the guns, before we move on, you'll see a lot of the guns do have names. That is like their mascot. So we today name them for like special occasions or special events that happen that are significant in the Navy or to certain things. Back then they would have had a name for their gun, like a mascot. They would have been like, this is our gun, this is... A lot of them were illiterate, so even if they did have them written up top, they couldn't read it, but they knew that was the name of their gun. So that's where the names come from.
How accurate was the shooting?
I mean, it's a big ship in the empty water. If they were able to get it in that line of sight, I feel like it'd be pretty, it's decent, as long as they hit the ship, you know? They weren't trying to aim specific, unless they were shooting one of these ones. So they would also use the waves up and down to help with the aim process. So if they wanted to go higher, they would wait until the wave kind of peaked, got up there, and then they'd shoot. Yeah.
What's the range? Because you said it's 400 for...
Yeah, this one's 1,200. Yeah, these are our long guns. They shoot the farthest.
Just like shooting
Yep.
stuff.
All right, this round particular thing right here, this is our capstan. A lot of people ask about the capstan. So it does connect up top. There's one up top, and the one specific up top would be used to actually like a crane. So they would have a line going from the pier, whatever object there was, coming up over the yard onto the capstan, roped around it, and the men would actually push it around. So you see those slots that are right there down here below? They would use these right here. They'd stick them in there, and these ladder wells would not have been like this back then. These would have just been in the way. But they would use it to help haul up our anchor chains. So our anchor chains would be wrapped around it, and they would use that to haul it up from, in the sea. So that's what that capstan is for. And then, excuse me. And then as we go down here, these copper pots looking things. These are called our built pots. Anybody know what they're doing? They get the water out. Every ship gets water. On the bottom of the ship, every ship or every boat collects water down there. It goes on automatically by the water. That way, then you have we get water when it's raining. So when they use it to help the water come out, they just can't drink. They pump up water down below to help make water. They would just flush it up with a knife and pour hole right here. And then they would actually do it on purpose in the midst of battle. It is a wooden ship. We do have embers and guns that fire going off. In order to prevent the ship from going up in flames, they would wet the deck, and then they would also put down some sand to help with the traction, so they weren't slipping and sliding everywhere. So they had a purpose for everything. They were very smart. We'll go ahead and go down.
Pumps out the water.
This is called our scuttlebutt. In the Navy today, water fountain is still called scuttlebutt. So what do you think this is? Water fountain. It holds their water. So scuttle is the hull, butt is the unit of measurement. All this held their ration of fresh water. Every sailor got 1 gallon of fresh water a day. They either chose to drink it, wash their body, or wash their clothes. What do you think they did with it? Drank it. So that's why a lot of the history you hear that sailors are smelly or whatever. That's because they only got 1 gallon a day. But the ship could hold at least 6 months supply worth of water and food. So a lot of people ask how long we would go out. I just say we were able to hold 6 months. So there's kind of an idea. So then this one right here, that tub right there is called the grog tub. And what that holds is 50-50 rum and water. So yes, they did get spirits. It's supposed to help them with, keep their high hopes up and stuff like that, like help them with whatever. But they watered it down so they wouldn't get drunk, but it also gave them something else to drink besides water. But they also not tricked them, but they put citrus in it. They put citrus in the barrel to help with any sicknesses or anything that came along with being on the ship. Night blindness, scurvy, all that stuff, so it helped fight it back. And then this one right here is your harness cap, your steam tub. In the steam tub, we would get rations of food, meat already on board that was 2 parts salt, 1 part meat. So it's too much salt to eat, so they would have to water down that, or rinse off all that salt and get rid of it and make the meat liable to eat. So they would put it in there, fill it up with fresh water, and then every 4 hours they would rinse it out and repeat the process until the salt was gone. They would then take it over to what's behind me, this black thing right here. That is called our caboose, and it is our stove. And that's where they would cook the meat once a day. So they would get 1 hot meal a day, which was their lunch. And then whatever meat or portions were left over, they would save it for the other meals. But it would be cold. So, and then if you wanted snacks, we got what we call the ship's biscuit, which was just flour and water mixed together, and it was hard. Very, very hard. So it wasn't very good. But they still got what they could as far as food and nourishment. So that's why the citrus also helped with that. But they wouldn't eat up here where they fight and they do battle and they do all that. So they would then eat down below where we're about to go. So if you guys make your way down any one of these ladder wells, I'll meet you guys right down below. Not that one, that was broke off.
I missed what those
Alright, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, real quick, there are some questions I got asked about up top. We do have 2 active guns that we do use. A lot of the rest of them up there are replicas, but 2 of them we do use. They have been modified from the back end. We are able to open it from the back end and put an actual round in there. It's a blank round. It looks more like a larger bullet encasing, but that is what we use, and we do shoot the gun every morning and every evening for colors. That is the big boom. If a lot of people have been around here, that is the big boom everybody hears. We do that. And then if you go on the Facebook USS Constitution page, you guys, we do live viewing every Sunday, podcast or anything like that you guys can be able to watch. It's pretty entertaining. But all right, on this deck here, this is called the berth deck. This is where they would have slept or ate or, you know, kind of like lounged around. So these hammocks are kind of ideas of what their hammocks would have looked like back then. Each sailor did get 2 of them. And if they weren't using them, they would store them up top on the spar deck that we first started off on in nets on the side to help save space. This deck, we did have 450 to 500 sailors on board at one time. Sailors and Marines. So it'd be about 450 sailors and about 50 Marines. And then officers. We would have some officers on here, of course. But this is where they would sleep. They would all rotate around, though, so there wasn't all of them in here at once. But they would sleep long ways, as you can see how those are lined up. The most experienced sailors got the outside because they would rock the most. The more experienced they were, the less seasick they got. The less seasoned sailors got the middle. And the youngest sailor on board we had was an 8-year-old boy. So are there any young kids around here? Yeah, you'd be perfect. Look, you fit perfectly down here, right? Yep. But they were very easy to go ahead and roam around here. So the way the layout would be, up front was sick bay, and then from up front all the way back to about right here would have been enlisted sailors. And then from here to about where the golden pipes there are, those pipes are for the bilge pump. This would be Marines, and then from that point to the wall there where the other room starts would have been midshipmen, and midshipmen were people learning to become officers. They were going to Navy college to become officers. They were not enlisted and they weren't officers yet, so that's why they stayed in between. Marines always separated officers and enlisted to help with fraternization or mutiny or anything crazy like that. Then as you go down to the back there, in that room, that's where the officers slept. On the left side is where the 1st to 5th lieutenants would sleep. Those are the ones that actually went to the Navy College and became officers. On the right side, the warrant officers would have slept, which are the ones that were enlisted and then became officers. So they worked their way to the top and they were specific in their job. And then in the very back, there's a room that's closed off. That is our tiller room. And the tiller room is actually what would have been tied to the ship's wheel, and that's what helped turn the ship. And then there's 2 rooms inside that, and that's where our surgeon and our purser would have slept. And they actually had college degrees. Those are the only 2 on board that have college degrees. So that's the gist of this one here. And then down at the bottom, a lot of people ask what's down there. That's called the orlop deck, and all that really is just storage. That's where they would have stored the 6 months worth of supplies or any of that. And then up front, down below, they would have stored extra stuff to help repair the sails and all that stuff. And then there's a red floor down back over there on the bottom, and that's the surgeon's cockpit. The surgeon would have did all his surgeries down below in that little area, because the lower you go on a ship, the less you feel the waves and the rocking of it. He would do all of his surgeries down there on his knees. But that's the gist of this floor. If you guys want to go ahead, go around, take some pictures, and then we're going to go ahead and head up top. Yes.
What's that right there?
So this room is just, it's called the Midshipman's Pantry. It was added after the big restoration.
Oh.
Yep. The green part right here is kind of where the
It's so low.
지금까지 정의 선생님이
came about when they abolished everything like that. I'll bring you down there, but they just take coins, flags that have been flown on the ship, and other merchandise. I can't stand over. I can't stand.